Hi guys, I'm here to teach you about doodling with a purpose today. Doodling is a type of drawing. It's kind of like sketching, and it's not a finished artwork, but it does have a purpose. Sometimes doodling can help us take our mind off something that's bothering us. It can relax us, and it also can inspire for next projects, something that we come up with while we're playing around with the lines and dots and shapes in a doodle can inspire us for our next artwork. Today is Doodling with a Purpose Part 1. So there are many ways that people doodle, and it's helpful to have a couple of basic steps and shapes so that they become like second nature. You don't even have to think about it, and you can use these shapes and steps when you're doodling, especially for the first time. So I'm going to switch so that you see less of my face and more of my sketchbook. I like to doodle in a sketchbook so it keeps my drawings kind of together rather than being on loose papers. And for today, I want us to go ahead and use regular markers, not the Sharpie markers, just regular markers. And in your your marker bins, there are two sizes. Sometimes there's the thin ones, sometimes there's thick ones. You choose. Sometimes it's easier to do some of my fine lines with thin markers. So step 1 is going to be working on spirals. Step 2 will come in a little bit, 3 and 4. Okay, so when I talk about spirals and doodling, it's really, I'm trying to get a tight spiral and even space between my line. And if I'm using this for doodling with a purpose, I have to slow my breath because my breathing even affects how I can draw my spiral. Sometimes I can let my spiral connect and lead into another spiral. I'm slowing my marker down, remembering to breathe and to help it relax me. The next thing I like to do are dots. I do 20 dots and then I connect them. So these just steps up here on the top are reminding us of where we're going. So I can do those dots anywhere I like. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So anywhere you like on your page. And sometimes I like to stretch my lines. Sometimes I make them short. Then I like to let them crisscross a little bit. So I'm not pre-planning in my mind. I'm just seeing where my eye connects the dots, trying to make them fairly straight. I'm using more of my brain power to think about how I'm controlling my marker than about what I'm drawing. So it starts to kind of just make some patterns on your page. Step 3 are overlapping ovals. So I'm just going to draw some ovals that are big, letting them connect. Some that are a little bit smaller. Maybe I can make kind of like a bean shape too. And egg shapes. Then I can go back in. And where they overlap, I can just put a little pattern. You guys know lots of great patterns. So maybe I'll do a little bit of stripes in some, and maybe there'll be polka dots in other places. You decide. Okay? The fourth one that I like to do are radiating lines that make kind of like star shapes. So just deciding where I might need a little sparkle. I start with a dot, and I want to get my lines even length and evenly spaced. I could do some that are just 4 lines. I could do some that double. Now it's a little less. Just adding a little star-shaped one wherever I have a little space. Okay? So those are the 4 steps in part 1 of Doodling with a Purpose.